What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and excited to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Our Dallas Cowboys scrimmaged, practiced with the Los Angeles Chargers today on Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. I know it was a little bit late getting in here. I know some of you were a little bit upset in the comment section. We are live, of course, for anyone who wants to watch this after the fact. Had to get my dog out of the office. Sometimes, you have the dog in here, you think you can trust him, and then he decides to bark and he ruins the show. So had to get my dog out. He wasn't being convinced all too easily. Had to get a treat. So congratulations to him. But the Cowboys did indeed practice with the LA Chargers on Wednesday. We had a roundtable discussion here on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. Please do subscribe on Tuesday night. And we talked about this upcoming practice, the first of two practices, by the way. The Cowboys will practice with LA again on Thursday. And we talked about what we wanted to see and what would be troubling to see. And we talked about how if the Cowboys got kind of outworked or out-finessed or out-physicaled by the Chargers the way they did the Broncos, that would be a little bit troubling. But the results are in, at least from Wednesday's session, and I think that we have enough reason to feel optimistic. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. There was a bit of a scare with CeeDee Lamb, as you can read our caption here. At the beginning of practice, it was reported that he would not be partaking in the session due to a foot injury. So we all heard that, and we all started freaking out. We all started screaming and running around and just I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know how to feel about or how we were feeling about this, but it was terrifying to say the least. There was footage that emerged of CeeDee Lamb just kind of hanging out. He was in sweats, obviously not partaking in practice in totality the way everybody else was, but looking all right. Ultimately, this was revealed to not be a big deal. In fact, it was revealed NFL Network was out at this particular practice, and Brad Sham, the voice of the Cowboys, was on with them. He revealed that CeeDee had a cut toe, and there was like a stitches situation going on here. So that is the foot injury. The Cowboys are very specific to note that this was nothing serious at all. They barely even qualified it as an injury. And while we're grateful, certainly while we're thankful that there's nothing happening with CeeDee Lamb, that there's no real actual injury, it does underscore how shallow the depth is at the receiver position. Sometimes I feel like we're talking and screaming into darkness, into a black hole. We're having the same conversation with multiple positions, how the Cowboys are just kind of building on this house of cards higher and higher and higher up, and they're going to be challenged from a depth perspective. You would have thought that they would have come to training camp with more as far as their roster is concerned to the receiver position. You would have thought that the injury to James Washington would have exacerbated that issue and woken them up and made them realize we have to add some bodies here. Neither of those things happen. Hopefully the kind of just baby little scare that this provided was enough to make the Cowboys see, you know what, we really need somebody else, whether it's Will Fuller or T.Y. Hilton or whatever the case may be. We need somebody in here, but they haven't learned from the issues at tackle. They haven't learned from the issues at kicker. So I have a hard time believing that they're going to learn from this. We do have one injury to get to. JJ the Mime says, I just need to know what my offense did today. I saw the defense. The main offensive clip we have is not encouraging. But Stephen Jones apparently speaking right now. We do go live as soon as practice ends, and noted that CeeDee Lamb will not practice tomorrow either. So do not expect CeeDee Lamb on Thursday either. Mendoza 45 notes that nobody has stepped up to be that second receiver. And I think that's a great point. If you are somebody, not that Mendoza is, but if you're somebody who said after the James Washington injury, you know what, I don't want to get a free agent just yet. I want to wait. I want to see what happens. I want to give these receivers down the roster time to develop. And to be fair, we have seen development from Simi Fehoko. We do have a highlight of his. We have seen development from Noah Brown, but it's still not enough. And so it's been long enough since James Washington got hurt that you have to find an answer. You have to go get somebody. So we'll see if the Cowboys ultimately do oblige. But the one injury, before we get to some more highlights here, it was noted just now, Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News tweeting out, Cowboys nickel cornerback Jordan Lewis tweaked his hamstring late in today's practice versus the Chargers. A team official said he'll continue to be evaluated. Definitely not great news. Jordan Lewis is valuable. He's a starter, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know that's worth panicking over. Nothing's worth panicking over at this point in time, to be very clear, no matter what. But we'll see. The Cowboys are fortunate to have some depth at corner, but we saw some of it not exactly shine last week in Denver. That opens up opportunities for other players on the roster. I mean, from a cornerback perspective as a whole, it would be great to see Nahshon Wright. It would be great to see Kelvin Joseph step up and flourish in some way, shape, or form, since those things have not happened. But let's go ahead and get to some more highlights, or first thing before actually the highlights, as I get my name off of here so we can look at some different things. We talked about CeeDee Lamb. Another just kind of thing that happened. There was a highlight. We're not going to play the highlight because it wasn't fair to him, but Anthony Barr made his, I guess you could call it return, but wore pads for the very first time, which is a very positive step.
We go right there, good punch, good separation. Good.
Awesome to see Anthony Barr. Like I said, there was a highlight. I don't think it's fair, but because this practice was partly on NFL Network, there were a lot of clips flying around, and Anthony Barr went up against Austin Eckler and did not have success. But it's Anthony Barr's first practice. I mean, so I don't think that's fair to Anthony Barr to expect him to just go step for step with one of the shiftier running backs in the NFL. So I'm totally fine, kind of not necessarily putting a lot of stock into that. I just saw this tweet right now from Clarence Hill of the Fort Star Telegram, and the tweet starts with Cowboys defense is becoming the best part of the team. And I think we've seen that over and over and over and over again just kind of manifest itself. And that really began probably over the second half of last season, probably after that Kansas City game, after maybe even the Thanksgiving Day game against the Raiders. This is a defensive-driven team, and that's weird, but it's also disappointing because the Cowboys had so many assets on the offensive side of the ball that were so nice and made the team so good. And you can be both. You don't have to just be one or the other, but it's still nice to see the defense thriving and flourishing. They had a lot of success today on Wednesday against the LA Chargers, a team who many people believe are a contender for the Super Bowl, a team who many people believe could dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West. I think the most notable moment was Israel Mukuamu's second-year safety, corner safety, whatever you want to call him. I mean, just an incredible player, an incredible athlete. Came away with an impressive interception off of Justin Herbert. I'm playing one more time because it's just beautiful. Some interceptions are more beautiful. They're prettier. They're better looking than others. And this one's up there so far throughout training camp. Yeah, I mean, good job, Israel Mukuamu. Like I said, we would love to see some of those players down the roster start to shine. Again, this secondary, I mean, we're talking about the safeties now, but this secondary has a lot of depth, has a lot of quality. And, we've done different 53-man roster discussions, and I think it's not hard to envision a 53-man roster that Israel Mukuamu is not a part of, even though he was last year. But he's playing so well as of late that I think you have to really consider, you have to think about things. This defense is, I hesitate to use the word loaded, but I mean, this defense really is loaded. And, people talk so much today. Actually, Sheil Kapadia wrote about how regression is likely for the Cowboys defense from a turnover standpoint, blah, blah, blah. All that is true. But they could still be very good, even if there is a regression from a volume standpoint in the turnover department specifically. Trayvon Diggs went up against Mike Williams in one-on-ones early on, had some success. So again, there's a lot of dubs happening on the defensive side of the ball. Another defensive highlight, I mean, we could sit here and we can make arguments for why this part of the defense is great, that part of the defense is great. I don't even know. Honestly don't know what part of the defense is the deepest. I mean, and so you talk about the interior of the defensive line. I mean, I can't remember a time where I felt this good about the state of the Cowboys defensive tackles. Actually, I felt really good when they had signed Joe McCoy and Dontari Poe. That obviously did not work out. But Neville Gallimore is awesome. Osa Odighizuwa is awesome. Quentin Bohanna, John Ridgeway, Carlos Watkins. I mean, there's so many players there who we really like, and Neville Gallimore is probably the most sleeping giant E1. I think people don't talk about him like people talk about, obviously and rightfully so, Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs and DeMarcus Lawrence. Even Leighton Vander Esch gets some talk. Anthony Brown has been underrated, so that's kind of elevated some discussion. Jaron Kearse gets a lot of love. Neville Gallimore missed a lot of last season, and I think that's a big part of it. But Neville Gallimore destroyed a man on Wednesday out at practice against the LA Chargers. Neville Gallimore embarrassed another human being who has a family, which was very, very rude of Neville Gallimore. Neville, seriously, dude, that person, they have a family, they have, they have people rooting them on. Why would you do that, Neville Gallimore? I mean, this, again, just incredible work from Neville Gallimore. I mean, huge season coming his way. Okay, so not a lot of offensive highlights as we kind of segue into that. In fact, we have 2 highlights and then 1 low light. The 2 highlights don't even feature any starters, which is unfortunate. But Cooper Rush has been the subject of much consternation, of much aggression, of basically just bad thoughts and bad vibes. Nobody's feeling great about the state of QB2 with the Cowboys right now. I wrote 1,200 words about this today on Wednesday at bloggingtheboys.com. I'm so passionate about it. But Cooper Rush did find Simi Fehoko on a nice play. Great to see Simi thriving. But great to see Cooper Rush playing well also. Good for Cooper, man. I mean, I know we all kind of have made up our mind and think he's not very good, but good for Cooper. Good to see him having some success. We're certainly rooting for all players on the Cowboys. It's nice to see him, having a good time. JJ the Mime says, so no update on Dak in general. I wanted to know how he did without CD, bro. JJ, we're getting there. I promise it's not a good thing. We have one more. Let's just get it out of the way. One last Cooper Rush highlight. He finds Dontario Drummond for the touchdown. Good for Cooper. Good for Drummond. Okay, so that's all the, I think, positives. And I don't mean that in a literal sense. There were other, teeny tiny positive things happening for the Cowboys offensively. It's not like it was all bad. I do think it was promising. And, to get the comment back up here, because I think this is a great point. JJ the Mime says, so no update on Dak in general. I wanted to know how he did without CD. This is an important thing, and that's why today's practice and tomorrow's practice is so essential in terms of evaluating this. And if the Cowboys get through another practice without CD Lamb, without identifying that they have to add somebody, that is really kind of actually terrifying. I know we sit here a lot and we talk about the front office and we wonder out loud, how can they do this? How can they make that decision? What's wrong with them? Blah, blah, blah. But it is strange. How can you watch Dak go up against, a legitimate team, a legitimate defense, who's coached by a very solid defensive mind in Brandon Staley? How can you do that and not feel like you are lacking as far as options? There was an article we talked about earlier this week on the show from ESPN's Todd Archer about how the Cowboys are banking on Dak Prescott elevating inexperienced wide receivers. Enough with the charade. Enough with this experiment. Go get him some players, some receivers who can help him out. And so today is an important, I think, example of assessing where Dak is again, because if you can see how he operates without CD, we're talking about the beginning of the season. He's at least going to be without Michael Gallup. He's at least going to be without James Washington. Jalen Tolbert, hasn't totally blown up. There's still a lot of time for that, obviously. I don't think we should be worried about Jalen, but I mean, if This is a peek at reality. This is like if you've ever seen the movie The Family Man with Nicolas Cage, how he gets to kind of envision his life, how it would have been. Like this is the Cowboys getting to see that life, and it isn't pretty. So this is a 2-minute drill situation for the Cowboys. Let's see here. Let's lower this volume so it doesn't blast in your ear. You're going to see, first of all, Tyron Smith get basically smoked by Khalil Mack. Let's start this over. There goes Khalil Mack around Tyron Smith. So, I mean, in an NFL game, this is a sack. Dak Prescott's on the ground. That's not great. Obviously, this is a practice, so they're just being cool. They're letting Dak run around. Okay, that's fine. So this is the next play. Again, this is 2-minute drill for the Cowboys. So we've already evaluated Tyron Smith getting beat by, unfortunately by Khalil Mack. But hey, if you're going to get beat by somebody, Khalil Mack's not the worst person for it to happen against. But okay, 2-minute drill. Dak Prescott's under pressure. So what does he do? He dumps it off. There's Zeke Elliott. Zeke Elliott's supposed to be somebody. And I don't want to turn this into bashing on Zeke. There are a lot of great qualities to Zeke Elliott as a player, as a Dallas Cowboy. This isn't, about disparaging him in any way, shape, or form, but this is just the way football goes, and that's why you have to have a lot of options on your team. So this is Dak Prescott. Let me dump it off to Zeke Elliott. Boom, there it goes, into Kyle Van Noy's arms. What are you doing? I mean, see, this is all on Zeke. Let's rewind this so you can take a look one more time, and I'll actually play it through so you can see it. This is the end of the first highlight, or low light. Dak Prescott dumps it off his hands, interception. I mean, that is... that's tough. That's hard. That's hard to square. That's hard to be cool with. Let's play. This is 2-minute drill again. So, as much of a simulation as you can have as far as NFL activity is concerned. Tyron Smith gets beat. He's supposed to be one of the best players on your team. He's not going to get beat a lot, so I'm not trying to make this about Tyron being terrible or something like that. But Tyron gets beat, so that's not ideal. Khalil Mack has what would be a sack on Dak Prescott right there. This play's over. I mean, Khalil Mack has won. Dak Prescott, again, would take a sack right there, and that's fine. Whatever. Dak's going to get sacked at some point this season. We're not trying to, pretend anything otherwise. But here he is supposed to dump this off to Zeke, one of the most reliable players on the team, and it's an interception. And so I don't know that I can feel great. Brian Bradford says Zeke should have caught that. JJ the Mime says, I thought it was like Dak just doing bad. I watched someone live stream their side, and he was making really nice throws. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I totally believe in Dak Prescott. Dak is one of the call it what you want, 5-7 best quarterbacks in the NFL. But, people act like a lot of football fans act, like if you say a quarterback needs help, that's implying or inferring that the quarterback is weak or the quarterback's not as good. Think about who the quarterback on the other side of the field was thrown to today. Justin Herbert has Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. He has Austin Eckler, who's out there smoking Anthony Barr, right? I mean, again, contextually. And so it helps. It helps to have good players. And I don't know why the Cowboys would want to design it this way to have Dak Prescott be the hero. We've talked about this many different times. And so I think the big takeaway from Wednesday session with the Chargers, and we'll see what Thursday offers, obviously, but you cannot watch what happened here. And I don't mean to make it about these tiny little moments. Like, Tyron's going to get beat, Zeke's going to drop passes. Like, nobody's perfect, everybody's going to have mistakes. It sucks that they're magnified because this was a 2-minute drill situation, but people are going to make mistakes. That's just life in general, life in the NFL. So okay, but I mean, the floor of this team is so low, and the ceiling is so much lower than it could be. And this isn't about, you shouldn't have traded Amari Cooper, you shouldn't have cut Lyle Collins. Fine, you wanted to do those things. Okay, we're not gonna, sit here and relitigate that situation for the 1,000th time. But the Cowboys have salary cap space to play around with. There are veterans out there. We've talked about them. One of our writers, David Hellman, wrote about 6 tackle options that Cowboys could go sign. We've written and done videos and made content about receiver options that Cowboys can go sign. We can only lead them to water so many different ways. The Cowboys are just choosing not to drink. They do not want to for whatever reason. And, JJ the Mime says the conspiracy theory, they're doing it on purpose. I've never bought this. I mean, not to attack your point, JJ, but a lot of people love to say, the Cowboys are just doing this so they can tank, so they can get Sean Payton. Why do they have to tank? Like, why do they have to tank for Sean Payton? I've never understood why that is necessary. Try your hardest to have success this year, and if you don't, just get Sean Payton if you really want to. I don't understand why tanking is a prerequisite for acquiring Sean Payton in 2023. But I think when you look at this again, I think Wednesday is an important day for the Cowboys, because Wednesday in its own way was kind of this microcosm of where the Cowboys are at. In fact, let's get that on the screen here. Wednesday was a microcosm of where the Cowboys are at. So let me explain. The day started with the CeeDee Lamb injury scare. In case you missed it, in case you got here late, whatever, there was a little bit of an injury scare. It was first reported that CeeDee Lamb had a foot injury. It was later revealed that he has a cut on his toe. He's not expected to practice on Thursday either. So obviously, if you have a cut toe, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had a cut toe. That's like a devastating thing. Like, you can't even walk. So, just whatever. But anyway, but still, living life, even for these 2 days, against a very good team in the LA Chargers, can teach you and show you and instruct you at what your life could be like if CeeDee Lamb got hurt. And I don't ever want to play or pretend or hypothesize about players getting hurt, but it's the NFL, right? CeeDee missed time a year ago, and what if we got to a point and CeeDee was injured, had a hamstring or whatever pop up and couldn't play? Who are your starting? Say it's today. Say the Cowboys had a game tomorrow, and I know people don't like that. People still love to say it's August. Why are you guys freaking out? They have a game in less than a month. I mean, so say he was injured today. Your starting receivers, starting in the NFL, would be Simi Fehoko, Noah Brown, and Jalen Tolbert. And Dak would be expected to go out there and be amazing. And people love to say, they were the number 1 offense in the NFL last year, which is true, but that was heavily inflated by the first half of the season. They withered down the stretch, and then they stripped pieces and parts away, and they did not replenish. It is an illogical way to go about this, but Wednesday offered a peek at that life, right? No CeeDee Lamb. Okay, how else did it offer a peek at that life? If Tyron Smith is ailing, if Tyron Smith is not amazing, obviously he's going up against Khalil Mack on this particular day, and so, that's not ideal. But Zeke Elliott, let you down. Zeke Elliott's supposed to be your guy. If you're the Cowboys are the only people who believe that Zeke Elliott is the guy right now. Zeke is still very good and can offer a lot of great things, but the Cowboys are putting too much on his plate, seemingly. I mean, they did that last year, too, when he was injured, and they still want to do it this way. The defense is awesome. The defense is amazing. Brian Bradford asks if Jordan Lewis pulled a hamstring. This is a live show. We did talk about that. And so he we'll see what the evaluation is on him, but he did indeed pull a hamstring according to the Cowboys. So ultimately, Wednesday offered a look at what this team could be, or very well likely will be, this season. That's why it was a microcosm. Who will this team be? a very good defense that likely regresses from a volume standpoint as far as production is concerned, but a very good defense nonetheless, a very good quarterback who is limited by the surrounding and supporting cast around him. And the conversation will turn into Dak Prescott's not that great. Why did the Cowboys pay him all this money? The Cowboys should have done this. The Cowboys should have moved on. The Cowboys should have whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Dak, how is he not elevating? Look at these other quarterbacks. They elevate players. Blah, blah, blah. It's so predictable. And we're not, again, I say this all the time, we're not geniuses. We're not, fortune tellers. We're not, we're just looking at the math and telling you what 2 + 2 equals. JJ the Mime says, then the national media will be blaming Dak and damage his name. Cough, cough. I mean, look, I don't care about those big time shows, whatever. Obviously, they're really successful in their own way, but I mean, they'll do what they want to do. DCF says, I hope we play some starters in this second preseason game. DCF, I think you're going to be disappointed. Phil Triplet says, if we have the money, why are we not getting a wide receiver and tackle? Phil, I wish I could tell you. I wish you were Phil of the future and that you could tell me, because I really don't know. I've run out of possible explanations. Even if I try my absolute hardest, if I try to sit here and approach this the way the Cowboys are, the only explanation you can continually come up with, and it doesn't make any sense, is to say that they, people joke about how they like their guys, but they believe in the young players on their roster. They believe. I don't know why. You can still believe in Simi Fehoko and Noah Brown while signing Will Fuller or T.Y. Hilton or Emmanuel Sanders or Cole Beasley or Odell if you want to wait. You can do both. You can have both at the same time. This isn't, you don't have to cut, Simi Fehoko and Noah Brown because you bring in Will Fuller or Emmanuel Sanders. You can have both. You don't have to say Josh Ball sucks and we want to move on from him if you go out and you sign Brian Bulaga or whatever the case may be. No, you can have both. And I mean, think about it. Last night, late last night actually, Tuesday night, a report emerged from the Dallas Morning News. I wrote about this today on Wednesday, that Matt Willetsko, Cowboys rookie 5th-round tackle, is still maybe going to play this year, but that he will definitely need surgery at some point in the future. The Cowboys are hopeful that they can delay it to 2023, right? That's crazy, by the way. The next year's 2023 already. Okay, great. So that's what they're hoping. So he's probably going to go on injured reserve, right? Matt Willetsko is. So, okay, what does that mean? That means that for sure, although we've kind of been operating under this assumption for a while now, but for sure, Josh Ball is literally, I'm not exaggerating or trying to be funny or trying to make a joke or being hyperbolic, literally the only viable option that the Dallas Cowboys have on their roster as far as swing tackle is concerned is a second-year, 4th-round pick who has never played in the NFL. Their overall plan at swing tackle behind Tyron Smith, of all players, was 2 dudes with a combined 0 amount of NFL experience. It was just a strange way to build this team. And it doesn't make sense no matter how much they want to say they like their guys and they want to develop youth and whatever. You can do both. So that excuse is crap. You cannot say it's just about developing young players. You can do both at the same time. Yes, there's an argument to be made that sort of aging veterans are progress stoppers, but right now you're stopping your own progress. You're the progress stopper. You're getting rid of talent that can help you win right now. You have a weak division. You're in the weaker conference. You have a franchise quarterback. You are in a prime sort of position. There's so many teams that would love to be in this position to have Dak Prescott and to be able to capitalize on it and jump at the opportunity to go try and win a Super Bowl, which is why the whole situation with the Cowboys is frustrating here. Rick Ursulani, I think it's Ursulani, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, did you see the Zeke power run when he knocked over a defender? The O-line opened a big hole. Yeah, I mean, like, again, we could sit here and play every single video, every single highlight. I mean, there are positive moments. That's why, contextually, anytime we play any sort of video or clip or highlight, it's, hey, this is one moment from practice. It isn't the end-all, be-all. But the totality of what we have seen is that this offensive line is weaker this season. We'll see what Zeke is able to do, but, that's going to be the conversation, too, is how do you expect Zeke to be good if the offensive line, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you can see all this coming from miles and miles and miles away. The astronauts orbiting the Earth can see all this coming. And so it's strange. It's befuddling why the Cowboys would choose to do this on purpose, why they would choose to do this with their roster. I don't buy that they want to tank for Sean Payton stuff. I can't come up with a reason that makes sense. I truly can't. But they're at a position. The CeeDee Lamb thing today, the teeny tiny little scare of a thing, should wake them up. It should wake them up, and they should say, man, you know what? Thank God CeeDee's okay, right? Like, thank God it's just a toe cut. Thank goodness gracious it's not a serious thing, because that would have been a disaster. Okay, great. So we can agree here, Cowboys, right? That would have been a disaster. Thank goodness indeed. It's just a toe cut. But let's kind of take one piece of that, right? That part where you said that would have been a disaster. Let's live in that for a moment, right? Let's live in this hypothetical disaster. Oh, CeeDee's hurt. This sucks. What do we do to take care of this? How about we sign somebody so that if something like that happens, we're prepared, right? Like, I mean, you ever go on like vacation with your family, and I don't know, you go to like the beach or like a beach house or something like that, and you're packing everything to leave your house, whatever, packing the car, and it's always like super packed up, and maybe when you were a little kid and you said, oh, let's just buy, sandwich stuff there, let's just buy burger stuff, let's buy it there at the grocery store, there at the beach, and your parents or whoever said, no way, it's more expensive there. No, we're gonna buy it here at home, and we're gonna take it with us so that we already have it. We're thinking ahead, all right? We're looking into the future, all right? I don't know why the Cowboys can't get the burger and sandwich stuff, right here. Marco Polo, what's up? I found you, says, I wish y'all would just leave it alone and wait and see. Y'all got mad when we signed big names and they didn't work out. Now we're drafting well and growing from within, and now y'all are still wanting. What growing is happening, Marco? I would love to know. I mean, this is the way that this argument gets spun. It turns into like one extreme or the other. People weren't getting mad that they signed big names that they didn't work out. You know what that is? That's them trying. But you have to do both. You cannot just say our strategy is to sign big names and that's it. Our strategy is to draft and develop and that's it. No, there's a middle ground. You can do both. You don't just have to have all or nothing. And so the Cowboys are refusing to live in that middle because that middle involves a lot more work and a lot more thinking and a lot more discussing and a lot more planning and a lot more doing this and that at the same time. There are parallel objectives and parallel properties that need to be happening all at the same time. Hourglass 420 says we need to build through both. Thank you very much. Hunter West says Julio's tearing up Tampa Bay's camp on a $6 million deal, and we just watched him go by. We'll do the same with all the other free agent wide receivers. SMH. I mean, it's like, and some people would say, I get your point, Hunter, and I agree with the disposition of it all. But some people would say, well, Julio wouldn't be having that success here. Fine, try though. Again, like if we think about this here, seriously, if you just sit here and talk about the facts of it all, let's just look at tackle for a second. The plan at tackle on the team that had Tyron Smith, who's missed time 6 years in a row. The plan was, we'll go with Josh Ball in his second year, who's never played in the NFL, and we'll go with a rookie, Matt Willetsko, who we drafted in the 5th round this year. Boom. Problem solved, right? Like it's like when you were in school, back to the like being a kid analogy, and you would have to write like a paper that was like, I don't know, like 150 words or something like that, and you would do like the word count in Microsoft, and you were like at 138, so you start adding in like a lot of ands and ofs and commas and buts and things like that, so you can stretch it out. Like that's all they did. They were like, boom, check mark, baby, we're done. Solid day at the office. Okay, that was tackle. That was tackle. At receiver, we're going to trade away Amari Cooper. We're pissed. We don't like him. Let's get him out of here. We don't care what the wide receiver market says. We're just going to want him off the team. All right, fine. Okay, so what are you going to do? We're going to draft Jalen Tolbert and sign James Washington. Boom, problem solved. And so even if we believed that, right, like even if anyone believed that, when James Washington got hurt, how did you not make a move? It's difficult to understand. Philip Garrettson says Cowboys have a Super Bowl record-setting defense with an elite quarterback. Running and play action will propel the Cowboys to a great season. Relax. Again, like this is just living in preference. This is living in imaginary points, because they do have an elite quarterback. They have a very good defense, but there is likely regression coming for them on the defensive side of the ball. And not preparing for that is ignoring literally 100 years of history. And so none of this is not true just because the Cowboys don't want it to be. It's all true. You have to consider it all. And if you don't, you're just closing your eyes and putting your fingers in your ear and saying, la, 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 la. It's not true because I don't want it to be. No, it's true. Of course it's true. Hourglass 420 says, is AB too toxic? Yes, I don't want anything to do with that. And beyond that, I don't want anything to take away from CeeDee Lamb. This is his team. He's the alpha. I don't want anybody like that. You can get help without taking away from it being CeeDee's team. Marco Polo, we found you again, says defense is the way to win a Super Bowl. Defense and strong run game. Watch and see. Marco Polo, I mean, like, I love you, but if you think that defense and a strong run game are the way to win a Super Bowl in the year 2022, I don't know what you've been watching. I don't know how you have been I really don't know how you can feel that is the case, but that's up to you. We just disagree. Hunter West says to Marco Polo, signing past their prime free agents on the vet minimum is not signing big names. Agree with this. Only big name they've signed in free agency in the last 10 years is Amari Cooper. They traded for Amari Cooper. The last one is Brandon Carr, but they got spooked because it didn't work out. Hourglass 420 says we got manhandled by the 49ers and the Broncos last season. Do we remember that? We weren't able to run the ball. I agree with that. And so there is a problem with running the ball, and that's true. This turns into an all or nothing proposition. I'm not saying never run. I'm not saying running backs don't matter and you shouldn't run the ball, but you shouldn't make that your identity. I mean, you have to be able to run the ball effectively. Yes, you have to be able to incorporate play action, which is not dependent on a strong running game. There's so much information that disproves that idea. But I mean, this is a passing league. The ball travels most quickly through the air, and the Cowboys have had success doing that. And so I think it was David Hellman who made this point, that the Cowboys losing to the 49ers in the playoffs may have forced them to believe this idea in more truth than it actually is, that, wow, that's how we got beat. We got to be that team. You're chasing ghosts if that's who you're trying to be. Cowboy Yeti says, is this about saving cap money for new deals for players with ending contracts? Yeah, I mean, that's what they say it is, right? Like, watch out. And that'll be the conversation happening next year. Well, we can't pay CD and Trayvon. That conversation's coming. I mean, we're 6-7 months away from Stephen Jones doing an appearance on The Fan saying, it's difficult to pay both, players on both sides of the ball, market-setting deals. It's difficult. There's only so much. That's why he's going to use them to negotiate against each other. He's going to argue that CD and Trayvon should take less so that the Cowboys can sign both of them when they can have both. There are so many examples of teams that, that can do both. Marco Polo says, tell me what won the last few Super Bowls. The argument for great defenses winning the last few Super Bowls applies to the 2015 Denver Broncos. That's true. They had an incredible defense. They had a Hall of Fame quarterback who was able to do things despite being physically limited. That's fine. But I mean, if you think about, fine, the last 10, let's go back to 2012, right? That's 11 seasons ago, but 10 years ago, the 2012 Baltimore Ravens had a great defense, but guess what happened in the playoffs? Joe Flacco got hot, threw 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, was incredible, and was the kind of propelling force behind them winning that Super Bowl. 2013, yes, Russell Wilson was a part of the Seahawks, but was hardly the let Russ cook version of himself that he would go on to become. An incredible defense, incredible run game. That also suits your point. 2014, the New England Patriots, an amazing passing team that was visionary. I think any Patriots team is kind of difficult to use just because nobody's like them. We already talked 2015. 2016, Patriots get back. An incredible passing performance by Tom Brady. An epic collapse, of course, by the Atlanta Falcons. 2017, Nick Foles threw for like 1,000 yards in the Super Bowl. I mean, they were amazing from an offensive and aerial standpoint as designed by Frank Reich and Doug Peterson. 2018, the Rams' innovative offense got there, and they lost, obviously, to a Bill Belichick team that's specifically designed against that in the Super Bowl, which is why they won it. 2019, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you think the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that runs the ball the most in the NFL? No. They let their quarterback own and dominate things because they understand they have a very good, obviously the best one in the NFL. 2020, Tom Brady and the Bucs, of course. Again, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's inevitable. And then last year, you've got Sean McVay's offense finally getting a ring. I mean, it's not just about who wins the Super Bowl, by the way. It's about who are the most successful teams. It's teams that air it out, teams that trust their quarterbacks, teams that go for it, teams that capitalize when they have windows upon them, like the Cowboys did before they withered away some of it. So just kind of is. It's strange. It's strange that the Cowboys believe this is the best way to go about it. But thankfully, CeeDee Lamb is all right. Thankfully, the Cowboys defense is playing well. We will see what Thursday's practice has to offer. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. If you want to email me, you can, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. You can always leave a comment here, and we'll get to those. Also, we'll be back on Thursday for another live show, another discussion about a Cowboys joint practice with the LA Chargers. Maybe Dak Prescott will throw for 100 touchdowns tomorrow. If he doesn't, I bet that Will Grier does. But anyway, thanks for hanging out so much, everybody. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all have a great dinner. I hope you all have a great breakfast tomorrow, and we will see you mañana. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you tomorrow.